Hey, everybody. We're here, alive and thrive, in the most culturally diverse city in the world, Toronto, home of Blue Jays, Raptors, Maple Leafs, and Canadian psychic Robert Lindsy Milne. That's me. And welcome to my side of the crystal ball. We're going to be hipping and a hopping and bipping and a bopping tonight because, boy, we've got a great show. My good friend Adam Gell is joining me. I had the privilege of being on his podcast last March, and we had a great conversation. And he promised me that he'd come back. And in fact, here he is tonight. We had this amazing talk in the green room just before the show. And we talked about so many things until finally one of us, might have been Adam, he said, we've been talking about so much great stuff. Maybe we should just start recording. So we just started recording. So Adam Gell is a former teacher, and he was a sports and physical fitness teacher at a college or at a middle school, and as well as he has a very impressive sports background. He also, besides being a physical athlete, he also happens to be really smart. He's retired from being a teacher and in a school and physical fitness, and somewhere along the line, he started having the ability to see things and connect with the Akashic Records. And what are the Akashic Records, you ask? Well, just stick around because Adam's going to be here and we're going to be talking about that and a whole lot more. This is a really exciting show. Now, just before we start, I've got a couple of requests. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Subscriptions are really important. They mean a lot. And by the way, there's no charge. And when you subscribe to our channel, what happens is we start getting a wider, broader base of listeners and viewers. And when we get to a certain amount of viewers, we start getting credit points from YouTube. So please like, comment, subscribe to our channel. And by the way, you can find us on my side of the crystal ball, of course, on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, and pretty much anywhere else you find your podcasts. You can also find me personally. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. That's my side of the crystal ball. And if you want to find me personally, you can find me on my website, www.robertlindsymilne.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok as well. And now, just as we're about to start, WWRS. I'm sure a lot of you know that I'm really interested in psychology, behavior, growth, inner enlightenment, etc. And so tonight I want to talk to you about dealing and facing pain and how we do it, or why we don't do it, and what happens if we don't do it, or if we do it. So every one of us has had something in our life that has caused us hurt in the past. No matter how wonderful somebody's life is, there's always been something. And there are those that have fewer of those, and there are people that have greater than others. But we all have hurt, and we all get pained. Sometimes we forget about, consciously, deliberately avoid looking at that pain, talking about that pain, admitting that pain is there. Sometimes it's just too scary because it hurts so much. when it was inflicted upon us all those years ago. And we hold it inside, and it takes a lot of energy to hold that inside. And so we can have bouts of anger with that pain. And we'll cover anger in just a little while. Right now, we're going to look at pain. So when we start to look at something, we remember that it hurts so much. We're not feeling it right now, though. We're remembering what we think it felt like, but we're not feeling it. And one of the most important things about getting in touch with those hurts from the past is there is one thing that is absolutely irrefutable. And what's absolutely irrefutable about any painful, terrible experience that you've had is you survived it. Because if you hadn't survived it, you wouldn't be alive, and you wouldn't be watching this conversation or watching this, just what I'm talking about. You wouldn't be here. So when we remember something from the past, we're afraid because we remember it hurt, but we're remembering it in our analytical brain that has no emotion, and we're detached from it because the pain's not there. When we look at this, well, one of the things we also have to be aware of is that when we actually remember what it feels like, it's never as bad, as hurtful as it was when it was inflicted upon us. And when we acknowledge that it's never as bad remembering than it was when it was inflicted upon us, and we're living proof that we survived it, then we can face that pain. Now, when we're actually remembering pain, it's coming from a different part of our brain, and we're not actually feeling it. We're remembering that we felt it. So to give you an example, when I was a kid, just to keep me fit for playing hockey, I played a little bit of football too. And one time in a practice, I got hit in the head with a forearm, and it hit my helmet, and my helmet was a little bit loose, and it turned. My neck didn't turn, but my nose got, was level with my ears, it was cracked. So we went to the hospital, and when the doctor was about to fix my nose, that was, all mangled, he said to me, we can't freeze your bone. So you're just going to have to, in essence, basically what he said is you're just going to have to suck it up. So he had these great big long prongs, and he stuck them up my nose. I was laying down, and I was sedated, but I was awake, and he stuck the prongs right up my nose, and then he started to push my nose back into place. Oh my God. It hurt so much. I can remember the agony of it. I can remember even what the bone felt like, scraping back across the bone. But I don't feel it, because that's coming from another part of my brain. So in the remembering, it's never as bad as it was when it was inflicted upon us. And we are living proof we survived it. pain and anger. Now, we don't like to remember those terrible things that happen to us, especially when we haven't had any experience with getting past. And some of us, and I'm one of them, right? Have been become so detached from those hurt feelings. We might even deny that we have them. We cannot just ignore the hurt and the pain, and we don't like feeling pain. So what we do is we mask that pain with anger. We, instead of getting in touch with the pain, we focus on being angry. We humans are capable of only feeling one feeling at a time. You can't suck and blow at the same time. You can't be happy and sad in the same moment, or high or low. You are in one feeling in the moment. When you mask the anger, when you mask the pain with anger, you don't feel the pain. What you do, though, is you lash out and you take it outward. And when you're being angry and you lash out, you don't feel the pain. And you always see some big palooka or anybody say they get drunk and act like a jerk, and then after they've acted like a jerk and beat everybody up in the place or harassed everybody, then they get quiet and then they get all teary-eyed and cry and shit like that. Well, what happens is they get too tired to keep the anger going. And then that anger no longer masks the pain. And then they get in touch with the pain, and then they just become, weak. And then we will tend to have very little compassion. And we also wouldn't understand that either. Anyway, I digress. So when your anger is masking that pain, the pain festers and it gets hotter, it gets greater, and it expands. And then what happens is, in order to keep that pain numbed, the anger has to get greater. And over time, it gets greater and greater and greater and greater. Sometimes in some of my life coaching, and even in psychic readings, I'll come across someone in a relationship, and they're really angry, and the relationship breaks up. They're heartbroken. He's not going to, and there's a part of that mourning or a part of dealing with that loss where if they don't get in touch with their feelings of hurt, what happens is they can get resentful and angry. So when you see people that have been in a horribly acrimonious relationship, and they've done equal horrible things to each other, when they're masking the hurt, the anger gets greater and greater. So if they push the anger aside and get in touch with the pain, feel it, identify it, and remember that no matter what, you've survived any type of hurt like this in the past, and you will get through this one. You just keep telling yourself that. Stay in touch with the pain. Put light on it. Identify it. Talk about it. Be open about it. And in time, it lessens and lessens and lessens again. So to get over the hurt, to prevent yourself from feeling it, you get angry. To heal it, push the anger aside and get in touch with the pain. When you get in touch with the pain, it begins to heal. And that's what Robert has to say. You know, Adam, I've been a guest on your show, and you've returned the favor that you're joining me on my side of the crystal ball. Thank you very much. The people that are going to be watching us talk today have missed a lot. Just you and me sitting together talking about what we've done. There's such similarity. So many things that are the same but different. That we've experienced is fabulous. So I know that you're that you were a teacher and your specialty was physical education. You've been into sports and things like that. So how does a winning pitcher become PITCHER? How can a winning pitcher all of a sudden become an expert in reading the Akashic Records? Like, how do you do that leap?
Well,
from throwing strikes to getting. How did you do that?
Well, there was a big gap between when I finished playing college and getting into the Akashic Records. I'd say that was about maybe 25 years between of timing. But I think the accumulation of actually learning the lessons through sport, and who our audience is when we're playing, and the motivation for participation is a big factor for me understanding a little bit more about my own life and my own journey. And as we mentioned earlier, as we spoke about the people in our lives who are the forces behind each one of us in order to, be subservient, so to speak, or pleasing to. And I think my journey pushed me along in a competitive manner, which was pleasing the external world, which over then a period of time brought me inward to then go inward to understand I had a core and a soul and the ability.
How did that happen? So you're playing baseball, throwing strikes and getting hits and things like that. How did you go from that to recognizing you have a soul? That's brilliant.
Well, it was that interaction with my father.
Oh,
okay. So the interaction with my father as an individual who was living through me as an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, all the way up to high school. And his particular impetus was trying to make himself feel good through my actions, through the things maybe that he was unable to do as a child.
So you become a star and he gets to be the star too.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. And going through that experience made me question who I was and what was making me happy and who was I making happier. Or what was my goal? What was my role in life? Was it to please people and lose my own self, or was it for me to regain myself? And I think those experiences of having trauma in my house and moments of physical altercations and having narcissism
at home, as in like being hit and beat up or stuff.
Well, there were instances where that took place, where my father would come home from work and he worked in Wall Street in the stock market, He was the son of immigrants himself. He was an immigrant. He came to this country in 1951 after traveling from country to country, surviving World War II with his parents, his stepfather. His father was killed in World War II, who we didn't know. What made it interesting was they came here and, they made it in some capacity. Not my biological grandfather, but his father, who I considered my grandfather at the time, had a grocery store. They came here. They worked hard. My grandmother was a seamstress. Everything was about just keeping the family together, I assume, after the war, rather than really being able to question or go back and deal with any of the traumas that they specifically went through. So everything was buried in their past.
Mm-hmm.
So when my father came here, he worked at Wall Street. He came home. My mother was very nervous. She waited by the radio to listen, to hear when the train was arriving at the train station from New York.
Sure.
And it was funny. It was a news radio called WINS 1010 Winds Radio, AccuWeather Report, and traffic.
I know that station.
Okay, so traffic was the big name in my mother's kitchen. And every time the radio went on and the traffic was being, reported, my mother was listening to the specific train if it was arriving on time. If it arrived on time, we were in a good mood. If there was a 10 or 15 minute delay, we weren't in a good mood. And my mother would wait till my father got home and report to my father to rile him up, to say, you know what your son did? Do you know what your son did? Do you know what your son did? And wait till your father gets home.
Oh, yeah. That can be the longest wait in the world.
It was the longest wait in the world. And then I ran to the corner to try to greet my father before he got to my mother.
Oh, yeah. Really? Wow.
Yeah. So I'd run to the corner, not with showing any type of, I wasn't really conscious of it probably, but now I am. I ran to the corner to beat my mother, not that she was waiting at the corner. I did.
To feel safe.
I feel safe. I gave him a hug and he said,
yeah.
He said to me, I go, how are you? I go, how's your day, Dad? And he said, oh, it was this, it was that. He walked up the block. He came up the steps. My mother said, if I were you, I wouldn't talk to him. And I said, oh, here we go. So it all started. This went on for so many years, on and off. A lot of trauma, a lot of stress through that situation. And I had a good relationship with my grandmother, his mother, my father's mother, who was very endearing to me and understanding of what I was experiencing. I'd run to her house a block and a half away, and she'd sit me down, and I'd explain to her. I said, Grandma, I don't know what's going on. She says, please, I understand what you're experiencing. Your father doesn't know better, I don't think. And I was young, so I overlooked it, and I just went along with it. And I just felt that I had a safe haven to go to her house whenever these things took place. But the more I was engaged in the house, the more I was questioning what was happening. And just getting back to the point of what you had asked me initially, going from my childhood to playing sports to then walking on to like a Division I baseball team, having no support at that point because, as we mentioned earlier, it was no longer about my father getting a feed into the energy of what I was doing. It was me now becoming an independent individual and now learning the ropes of life on my own, so to speak.
I have to mention this to you, Adam. What I'm hearing, and what we were talking a little bit about before, we just hanging out before the show. What I'm hearing, and you're describing it, you were in a serious, like on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of dysfunction. You were living at least at a 9.
Yeah. Maybe
so. Maybe a 9.5, and the only difference to make a 9.5 a 10 would be the kid gets killed. But other than that is like 9. You were a 9.5. Now here's my question: how come you became so strong, dealt with it, and created an amazingly interesting and fulfilling existence when others that have had less trauma and couldn't make it? What do you think's the difference?
Well, I mean, if I look at it now, understanding a little bit more about the spiritual world and having a deeper understanding of choosing our parents, choosing the life path that we're going to choose, I think this was the impetus or the pressure necessary for my soul to evolve and to have these persons, characters in my life in order to put me through hardship so I didn't become a victim of circumstances, but I became wiser from the circumstances.
So the answer I would have given if I would have been talking about you is I would have said, that's because he's so strong and determined and has a great will.
That I have.
Well, that's the way I would see what you've done.
I would have said that initially, and I have that in combination, but the combination of that and also having a deeper understanding of my path and other people's paths have given me the willpower also to go on and to give that insight to other people because,
there's another thing as well, and that is your inner kindness.
Thank you.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
Because you could have gone the other way. Oh, and it was a conscious choice.
Absolutely.
You could have really gone the other way.
And
incidentally, we all have those, positive, negative moments, whether we go to the light or the dark.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I had a force. Yeah. I had my grandmother Lydia, as I said
me
before.
Too. Yeah.
And that grandmother of mine,
who
lived that block and a half away, was situated in a perfect spot for me to seek shelter and feel safe.
Right. Okay. And that's what we need when we're traumatized like that. Okay, so how does this kid who's a star baseball player and really strong and carrying a lot for the whole family, how did you find out about the Akashic Records? How did that happen?
Well, I guess over the years, accumulating all of these experiences and dealing with the traumas that we mentioned or were speaking about, the specific emotional issues turned physical for me.
How so?
Well, I first tied it into maybe it being psychosomatic in terms of having asthma. But I had experiences like where I was in the gymnasium of my school and I was having breathing problems. I had allergies. There was dust. They were polyurethane the floors every year. But I looked up one time in the building and I never had this before. I looked at the vent in my gymnasium and I all of a sudden was getting a panic attack.
I know them.
Okay. Through that panic attack, I was hyperventilating, having a hard time breathing. As it went on, I guess it got a little bit more intense. And there was a woman at work who had spoken to me and told me that she knew somebody who does energy work. And at the time, I knew a little bit about acupuncture, acupressure. I had done that type of holistic work or dealt with people who've helped me with that. And then I contacted the person she said, and he got on the phone. He said to me, "Yeah, you have asthma." He didn't, he read my energy, which at that time I didn't know about. And I came to visit him, and he started telling me about my childhood. What the issues were, the traumas, the fighting, whatever. He said, "Why'd you walk around so angry as a child?" I mean, he knew why, and he was just trying to elicit my, response to that. As it turned out, while we were working with one another, my intuition started to expand. I was able to tell him about clients with looking at their pictures that were on the wall that he was, sending energy to. And he also had mentioned to me, said, you have the potential to do this type of work. So I was feeling it and I was understanding that concept. As the time progressed and I spent time working with him, I had read a book on the Akashic Records by this woman by the name of Gabrielle Law. And her book was...
How do you spell her last name?
ORR. Okay. I had a reading done first, actually. She gave
with
me a
her?
reading. With her, yeah. She had told me, "Do you speak German?" I said, "I actually do. I speak it fluently." She said, "Yes." She said, And I was, working through the traumas, the issues of asthma and other stuff. But she was telling me that, you were in the past life. I see you in Germany in a concentration camp. And I said, well, it's interesting. I lived in Germany for 6 months. I spoke fluently within 6 months. I married a German woman. I felt when I was in Germany at home. I literally felt when I walked through the streets, this is home to me. Came back. That was in 1987. And the reading continued. You were a doctor that was well liked. You had a Jewish mother, a Christian, or vice versa, a Christian mother, a Jewish father, and you got killed at the end
Of the war.
of the war. Well, it was in the war itself. I did So as that progressed, I was going to psychic workshops.
Okay.
And I wound up. They were burning incense in the room, and I had asked the teacher if she can put it out. And the girl next to me said, that fear you have of the smoke is not from this life; it's from the past life. I said, "Oh my God!" And then I calmed down, and I was able to at least try to acclimate myself to the burning of the incense, and just realize it was something from the past, and another person was seeing it.
So that was triggering a PTSD episode, and that woman's words calmed you down.
Yes, it calmed me down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful words there.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a reading for myself, an Akashic record reading. I then was able to learn how to read the Akashic records myself, and I was doing readings for others and myself, and I came from Berlin. I had a Jewish mother, a Christian German mother, and a Jewish father. And I heard names. They came to me. I don't remember the names, but they came to me. I was doing then a Reiki session on someone, distance healing, and the person got up off the chair afterwards and said, "You were my doctor in the concentration camp."
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why do you think that happened? So, okay, so here's my reaction. My reaction is not, oh, wow, like you're making up a story. My reaction is, what caused that person to have a Reiki session with you and be able to recognize that you were her doctor in a concentration camp in another existence? Like, what are the odds of that? Like how did that happen? Wow.
Well, I guess it being a unified field, a connective energy, right? That field of connecting to another person.
When was that?
This was last year, a year and a half ago.
Oh, okay. Oh, I was thinking like 20 years ago. Oh, okay. This was like a recent, like.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Have you come down from that high yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's true. Well, initially I did feel like it was a confirmation that made me validated what I was feeling. And then I interviewed people on my podcast.
What did you think when that happened? Where did you?
I asked the person to describe it, and I asked the person who I did the reading for, who was also in contact with doing Akashic record readings. I had said to her, "Could you do me a favor?" Well, initially I felt. First of all, I was overwhelmed because I felt a sense of guilt of being associated with this time period. There was
the Jewish background. Sorry, the
being
Holocaust
a doctor.
Background. Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yes. You hear about the different doctors and what the experiments and everything else, and I didn't view myself like that. But I'm sure that I'll explain later what happened recently.
Okay.
Yeah. But what took place was, after she got up, she said, "Yes, you're in this room and you were in suspenders." And I always envisioned myself, I wore suspenders like in college. I dressed like I was 1940.
Wow.
She says, "Wow." I said, "Could you do me a favor?" I said, "Could you do a reading on that specific thing?" And a week later, she writes me back. She goes, "You had a German mother and a Jewish father, and you were from Berlin." And I got the same reading myself.
Okay.
And I was an eye doctor, a specialist that was well known. And incidentally, when I looked on the hospital in Berlin, the Charité, which is the hospital where most of the doctors, Jewish and Christian doctors alike, studied under, I did somewhat of a remote viewing, and I drew the building, and it was the building that I saw on the computer when I typed in images for the Charité.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And the shoes I wore. I was able to look down at my shoes and see which
Yeah.
shoes I wore and
Yeah.
where I stood. And then as I continued, I was explaining this before. I interviewed two people on my podcast, and at the end of the
What's the name of
podcast,
your podcast again?
Conversations with Adam Gell and Inspiring Minds.
Okay. Where's it
Yeah,
found?
it's on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah. So I did the reading. Had the interview. At the end of the reading, they said, Adam, there's somebody I think is going to know you. I said, know me? Okay.
Is that biblical?
Biblical. Well, it was actually. He wrote a book.
Okay.
And what happened was I get an email from the person said, Adam, I don't, maybe this sounds a little strange, but my name is so-and-so and so-and-so, and you were my doctor in the concentration camps.
That's amazing.
She told me I was delivering babies. I was on the line helping people deliver children, and I pulled her off the line, and I asked her to help me to save her life in that particular department, and she got a name too for me.
How do you carry that? And you know what I mean by carrying it? Like how do you live with that and then still be normal?
Well, I'm going to tell you the last couple of weeks have been a little bit challenging. I was put on. I'll tell you why.
Tell me.
I took a past life regression therapy. I was put on the hypnosis in a group session.
Yeah.
And the hypnosis session was based upon that specific past life. So I was able to now see three specific scenes.
Yes.
In this time period. And the first scene was me arriving by train. I didn't know if it was Auschwitz or not, but that's where I was. That's where it was. I saw the jacket I was wearing, a long wool coat. I wore a hat and glasses. I looked in the mirror. And then from there, I was given an outfit to wear and a white shirt, like a medical shirt, and then I was tattooed on the arm, the forearm. The next
with
scene,
numbers?
Yeah, I was given numbers, yes. And I was demoralized because I thought I was a respected human being that was well respected by my peers back in Germany and where I was. And so it was very demoralizing for me. I was very proud. And the next scene was me standing at a desk. And at the desk, there was an SS guard to my back and Jewish inmates coming in with striped clothing. And I looked at them. They said, "Can you please help me?" And I said to myself, "I can't do anything. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please." Well, the next scene was I went to the commandant of the camp. And I said, "You can do with me whatever you choose. But I will not do what you're doing anymore. I will not sell my soul to this. I'm done." So the next scene was my death scene, which was they put like a black hood on me, and I got shot in the chest, and then that was it. So this happened a couple of weeks ago. This particular.
How are you doing now?
I'm okay, but the first few days thereafter were a little traumatizing for me, I have to say. Yeah.
So, you and Rodney Dangerfield, right? I'm okay today, but boy, you should have seen me last week, right?
Oh my God.
Okay.
That's true. That's actually true. It did set off a little bit of a trauma in me, I have to say. But what it did was it pieced together, and it gave me the opportunity to actually see how this actually is helpful, because it shows us in our lifetime how we're experiencing certain traumas and certain moments that really revert back to possible past lives. And we're supposed to have awoken ourselves to these experiences so that our soul evolves, and that we are faced with certain things of making decisions or challenging one of the virtues that I was supposed to experience, which I felt was truth, speaking the truth, dealing with people who aren't being truthful.
I have a slight variation, only to when you say what I was supposed to do, and where I come from, it's my where I come from in my thinking is it's what you chose to do, what you accepted. That's how I would see it. But you're seeing it differently. So I would see it as I decided to accept it rather than I'm supposed to.
Okay.
That's only for me, right? That's the only, I don't know where that came from, but that's what it was for me.
Well, in essence, it's a learning experience for
Yeah.
me, and it showed me, as you spoke about before, the paths that we can choose. We can
Yeah.
become angry, or we can
Yeah.
become wise from a situation, or kind.
Well, in my case, I've been like the whole spectrum.
Yeah. Well, I've experienced the feelings of aggression, and I usually let that out through sport. When I did play hockey,
Yes. Oh, that's a good one to play to get
yeah,
that.
well, it was a perfect opportunity for me to do it. It was also almost like the phoenix coming out of the fire, trying to use that
Okay.
energy in a positive way and to motivate myself to make it like a laser as opposed to making it like a weak beam and just using
Oh,
my
yeah.
energy.
Oh, so what do you do now with that information that you have? What do you do with it now? Now you've learned about it. Uh, what do you do with that learning?
Well, first off, it gave me the opportunity to see how the Akashic Records has the capacity to open one up to their soul's plan, their book of life.
Is it open to anybody?
Well, it's open to anybody. It's a matter of raising your energetic vibration to the eighth chakra, which is about 12 inches above the head, to open up and be in touch with that energy. I mean, people can be and will be in touch with that energy if they open up the Akashic Records, but
I
some
see.
people won't. They'll feel the energy if they, quiet the mind.
All right.
But some people are then able to take it a step further by then it's hearing information, seeing information, receiving a download of information for people based upon just them opening up their records or them asking specific questions.
And I'm sitting here thinking, somebody's going to be watching this because we're just recording now. Somebody's going to be watching this and they're going to say to themselves, what are the Akashic Records?
Well, that's a good question, obviously. The Akashic Records are a vibrational imprint made on the Akasha.
What's that?
Okay, so the Akasha is an energetic field in the fifth dimension where our thoughts, our actions, our speech is recorded. It's like throwing like a rock into a lake, and the reverberation of those waves that come off the rock hitting the water would be endless if there were no sides to the lake to stop it. And so the Akasha is the stoppage point of what absorbs that particular, our words, our actions, and our deeds, and records it and keeps it in an energetic vibration. And when it's stored there, a person like myself or someone else who opens up an Akashic record for the person that they're reading for themselves, is receiving a holographic download that is interpreted however it's perceived by the reader. So obviously each person who's doing a reading has some type of, not pre-existing, but has their own bias energy involved in reading someone else's energy, their own personal interpretation.
So are the Akashic Records the recording of time up till now? Or are the Akashic Records recorded up to infinity and all variations of the realities that we'd experienced, or is it just simply what's being done up until now?
No, that's a good question. It's from the beginning of time to infinity.
Okay.
It's our past experiences, past lives, present moment, and future possibilities based upon our thoughts and our words, ability to manifest.
Okay. So it's not like I'd think about it as like in this old castle or something, this dark room with all these cabinets filled with all the records of all time. It's not like that at all. It's an energy.
Well, it's an energy, but it's also, I guess, a visual interpretation of that energy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, why would someone or how no first how could just like an ordinary everyday kind of person connect to the Akashic records, or do you have to go to somebody who connects to the Akashic records?
Okay. Well, the way I did it, so I'll speak the way I did it.
Yeah, please.
I read the book by Gabrielle Orr, who wrote a book called One True Love, and in that book is the prayer. Okay, it's a sacred prayer that's open to most people, right? To be able to read that. It's a prayer that has been passed down from the Mayan tradition that was translated into Spanish, then was then translated into English. I think by a man by the name of Johnny Przinski, who had a vision one night of a Spanish Mexican woman who he'd meet and who would pass this prayer on to him, and it happened to have happened. And so he, I think, translated to English. But a person, in terms of accessing the Akashic records, you're able to read a prayer, which will change the vibration for the person's mind. I guess the waves, the brain waves.
So if you read that passage, it will soothe your mind, or.
Yeah, well, I would say that when I initially had started this, I felt in my solar plexus, my third chakra, I felt a sense of calmness and peace that allowed me to actually sit like in a vibration that I felt also hitting my third chakra. So I felt like a heaviness on the third chakra and on the crown chakra.
Okay.
So that was doing a reading for myself.
All right.
Doing the reading for someone else is another prayer to be.
Oh, okay. So, tell me about that one. That's really interesting.
Okay, so that's a prayer. That's something once you've invested yourself in terms of learning the Akashic records and taking specific courses on the Akashic records. There's another prayer that is specifically for clients to do readings for other people, not clients, but people other than for yourself. Right. And it's a similar prayer, and gives you access using their name and the prayer to receive a download of information once their Akashic records are open.
Wow. So, and you do that?
That's what yes.
Wow. And you do that like for people like clients?
Yeah, I see clients. I'd say I see about 3 to 4 clients. I've been seeing about 3 to 4 clients a week. I've been assisting many people. I would say most people now who are on this like a journey of ascension of trying to open themselves up, dealing with their past traumas in their 50s and 60s, and removing the blocks that maybe we spoke about before, the traumas that people experience that they've forgot about through their reptilian brain, as you were discussing with me. And now are looking to go back and try to find through the Akashic records and through my readings some information to piece together the parts of themselves that they kind of like shut down or left out of their lives. And it's been pretty successful. It's been giving me the opportunity to actually see their childhood, see their experiences, which they didn't recall, and then you know what? I remember that now. Yes. So.
Could somebody, without consciously knowing they're connected to the Akashic records, do that and give information when they're doing readings? I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah. Well,
I'm joking, right, Brett?
Well, I would say the psychic reading is accessing a similar information. I think daydreaming.
Really?
Edgar Cayce, who was this, was a prophet. And he speaks about the Akashic records. I don't believe he said a specific prayer, but I believe that in his daydream mindset of quieting the brain down, which the prayer does, that the person then has the ability to then access that information. I think we're in touch with the Akashic records when we're daydreaming, when we settle our mind. I think this is it's an entrance point of allowing a person to then settle into that energy.
So when you're reading the Akashic records for someone,
Yes.
is that like when I do a reading, I'm sitting across from the person, whether it's online or whether it's in person, and I do, and mine are more of a monologue than a dialogue, and I just start talking, and I talk about whatever comes into my mind. Is that what you do when you're doing it, or
I'm using the prayer with the
yep,
person's name to access
right,
their energy,
okay,
whether they're in front of me, behind me, 1,000 miles away. If I don't see them
oh,
or not see them, it doesn't matter. I don't have to see
okay,
them.
okay,
I don't have to hear them as long as they give me their name.
okay, yeah, I understand that.
And so through that particular entrance point again, I'm able to then receive information in imagery. And so in other words, the session itself will open up with the prayer using their name. And then I will sit a few minutes in quietness and in solitude, and I will see what information and which people come into the reading from what family members. And then as it progresses, I will explain what I'm seeing, and it's a profound experience or person in the person's life. And then
I'm having a profound experience right now.
oh, right. And then the person will then ask questions. And the questions are not yes or no questions that don't elicit a yes or a no answer. They're questions that are more on a soul level of how and what. So in other words, how do I go about finding the correct relationship? What do I need to do in order to get that specific job? What are the blocks in the way?
So, it's blowing my mind, Adam. So when I do a reading, like I said, it's a monologue rather than a dialogue. Most of it, but the way I do readings, I ask two questions, and the two questions are: how old are? Well, I already know their name. How old are you now? And what month is your next birthday? And what I'm asking, or what I'm looking for is where we are right now in time. So I tune into where they are right now in time, where I am as well. And that's my anchor. And I move forward and backward in time, but I'm always using that anchor as where we are right now. And when you were talking about asking questions about, I think, the future and the past, I realized that one of the reasons I always make reference to the time period and the date when I'm doing readings as well, talking about the future or talking about the past. And what I'm doing is telling myself where I am in time. And I'm in time in that person's life. And what I'm thinking, you just told me or taught me is that I could be connecting with the Akashic Records. Somehow it happened, but that's what I just learned with you, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
Does it? Does it?
Yeah,
Wow.
well, because it's the anchor, as we're speaking
Yeah.
about, that entrance point, that point of me using the name gives me the capacity to then go forward and go back.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like opening up. It's like opening up, like shooting an arrow at the Akashic Records.
Another thing that I'm into now, tell me how you would feel about this. One of the things that I'm starting to do is taking like a whole career. I'll move into the future. And then when I'm talking, say you're going through a really terrible time, like most of my clients when they come to see me, what I do is I look forward into the future, and I describe to say the person's 40 years old in front of me. I'll go to where they are at 80, and I will look back through their eyes at 80, and I will describe to them today how they feel about the way they solved the problem that they're coming to see me for.
Wow, that's very interesting.
And that now I'm reading the Akashic Records.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm doing that. Okay, that's what I'm doing. Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, I think it's just such an interesting, it's an interesting path to, as we are speaking, as you know, we
Yeah.
started off at the very beginning of the trauma
Yes.
and the bridges that we need to walk over in
Yeah.
order to get to new destinations. And I think
And
the
almost,
Akashic
yeah, keep
Records
going.
does that. No, that's all.
And almost everyone I've met since I've made my new entrance into this field, right? At an overnight success after 57 years, right? So as I made my way back, I am learning so many things that I'm doing, and I never even realized that I've been doing them. What a glorious experience! Thank you, by the way.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
This is great. Okay. So when you do readings, and by the way, if can just about anybody have a reading from you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's not like a restriction, or you got to be this evolved, or so the criteria is knowing your phone number and knowing how to dial it and saying, please help me. Is that basically what they need?
Yeah, I also would say that when a person is more open to receiving,
Well, that's a lot easier, isn't it?
then it's a lot easier to
Oh, sure.
receive, to pass information on.
Yes.
I think that's the connection between passing authentic information to someone and them
Okay.
receiving it. And so I think that when people's energetic vibration is also stronger,
Yeah.
if they have their own spiritual path that they've
Okay.
experienced or gone
Okay.
up, I think it's a lot easier for the energy and to access their energy and to get a clearer reading.
Okay. So when you're doing that, um, do you have a medium per se, or do you just kind of sit there and let the energy come through?
My medium is as we spoke about opening the name. I hear it's the masters and teachers
Yeah.
or the loved ones passing
Okay.
information through.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll hear a soft voice saying yes or no.
Yeah. Okay.
I will see past lives come into play and how certain patterns have been an ongoing cycle of the behavior that exists in the present life and what had happened in another life that mirrors that specific trauma or cycle or karma that they are working on.
Do your clients have to believe in reincarnation, or can you give them information without them having to believe in reincarnation?
No, they don't need to believe in
Okay.
reincarnation. Yeah. No,
What do they need to do, be able to do to get a reading from you?
in terms of their own
Besides
personal,
having enough money to pay for the reading, but besides that, okay, so what else?
I think that a person would need to be honest with themselves.
Okay.
Uh,
And
I
with you,
think,
right?
well, with me, but I think if they're honest with themselves, they'll be honest with me.
Okay.
I think that it's important for a person to avoid any alcohol or any type of recreational drugs before. Yes, because that would affect the energy field of the person.
That does make sense.
Yeah. So I would look at it like I would also say that when a person is in acceptance, when they're in the mode of acceptance and not putting up any barriers or not in a sense state of ego. In other words, people sometimes want to take information, but they want to question the person doing the reading rather than the information.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that could be annoying.
Yeah. So I've had that where people are, rebounding the information I'm giving and throwing it back to me.
Yeah. Well, when that happens on my side of the crystal ball, as it were, what happens to me is I shut down.
Right.
That's what happens.
Well, the other thing is that I don't want anybody to be reliant upon me. I want people to become independent thinkers and also have the capacity to use the information to grow from it rather than become dependent.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I see my practice as, the lifeguard diving in the swimming pool or in the lake and pulling the person out. So I see myself more as a crisis worker more so yeah, getting the person out, making them safe, getting them in a safe position, getting them balanced, and then they go off to somebody else. That's how it's been for me.
Well, from my perspective,
Yeah.
doing the work, I would say that many of the people, there's a feeling of a loss of self-love,
Yeah.
or self-acceptance. The
Makes you
inability
cry.
to,
That makes me cry when I see that.
yeah, the inability to love themselves,
Yeah.
and to accept themselves, and therefore causes a sense of disconnect between parts of themselves that they left behind that they don't want to know from. And I think the readings that I do help connect the parts of themselves that they've dismissed and bring them back into the equation, and create more wholeness for them. Because I'm, as an outsider, seeing
Yeah.
the information, it makes it
Yes.
easier for them to allow that information to pass through them, rather than them doing the work where they'd be battling themselves. But as an outsider, not knowing them and getting this information, I'm passing information that is presented to them in a digestible manner that helps them digest it, I think.
Are you consciously awake, or are you in an altered state when you're
No,
doing this? You're
I'm not
not.
in an altered. No, I'm not in an altered state. I'm in a state of receiving.
Okay.
I'm in a state of openness.
Yep.
My heart is open. It's a heart chakra is open. I do look to the left. I see information out the left upper side when I'm doing a reading. When I'm doing the reading,
Okay.
and there's usually a web of light that I'll see, and through that information, that side is where I get my information.
Doing this kind of work has been my experience that when I have an angry feelings of anger or something when I'm working, I can't do the reading. I can't connect. Um, is there how do you tune in or connect to the person that you're doing readings for? And is there something that person could do or not do cause you to have trouble tuning into them?
I think I mentioned it before. I think
Okay.
I think their openness, their energy, their own personal
Okay.
energy,
Okay.
their ability to receive information and not
Yeah.
block the information that's
Yeah.
coming through, or in the midst of the information, not question it. I think it's also important for some, not feedback, because we're not giving feedback at the time. Some people are there more skeptical than they are in the state of receiving. So the
Okay.
skepticism is the part that would be a deterrent, I believe, to allow information to flow, because it's counterproductive for the person to do that. They're putting up a shield around their energy field, and then it becomes difficult for me to do the reading. As you said before, I guess my own personal mood will definitely affect a reading. If I am aggravated or I'm stressed, I'd have to really pull myself together at
Yeah.
times to make sure that I'm there in that session. And it could be challenging if the mind is challenged with other stresses that are going on.
Okay. That's interesting. Um, So we could talk about the Akashic Records and all the reactions until the cows come home. But you do other things besides just read the Akashic Records. You do other things. What other things besides being a star pitcher and you know what
Well,
other
I
things?
I also do shamanic work, and I've
What is a shaman? A shaman?
shaman is a keeper of the light, the traditions, of the
Okay.
fire, to keep
Yeah.
the tradition going, to keep to offer information and insight, to journey for people, to get information for them, so that they interpret their lives in a different way, from the perspective of different realms that exist in the shamanic traditions. The low world, the middle world, and the upper world, the three different realms. And as a shaman, excuse me,
That's all right.
I find it my the first of all, I've had past lives where I've been a Lakota Indian. And it's very interesting just on that level of talking about past lives. I've run into people wearing Lakota tattoos.
Yeah,
I asked my girlfriend to go to the library in Manhattan, and she opened up a book, and the book said the Lakota Indian. And each person, and then I had a reading done, and a woman said, you were Lakota from this and this time. So it's something that is in me. I feel that's in me, and I feel the connection to it. But in terms of the work itself, it's trying to incorporate soul loss, the parts of a person's fragmented soul that were lost through trauma, and trying to bring that back into the person's body, into the person's consciousness. By seeing it for the person, if they're unable to see it themselves, they have the capacity whether to incorporate it back into their body or to leave it out of their body and where it is. So it's almost talking somebody off the shelf, so to speak.
I think it's not almost. I think it is talking somebody off the shelf.
So let's go with that then.
That's the real thing there. Okay,
So in other words, is it safe? Am I in a safe place now, or am I wise enough to now incorporate parts of things that I did not want in me, and by cutting them away, I feel better that they're away from me.
And this would be your client speaking, or what they experience with you.
Yes. So I do what is known as an Olympia ceremony, where I invite the different directions from the north to south to west, the earth and the sun. I open up the space for the client, and then I clear away their energy field with alcohol, rum.
You drink it?
Well, I'm blowing it on them.
Oh,
so
you're
probably
really,
I probably have some remnants of the alcohol.
Do you swallow it just a little bit just before you do it? Okay.
When I turn around and nobody's looking. And then I fall on the floor, and they say, "Why are you?"
Yeah. Well, I've done 8 readings today. The rum's caught up.
That's true. No, for the most part, it's effective. The energy I do an egg clearing. I take the egg, I roll it over the body.
I was joking. I was, joking about the rum. That was really tongue in cheek. Actually, that's for other people that are listening. I was just playing. I wasn't.
Well, if it's Halloween, you can do it.
Right. Okay. All right. When you listen to yourself or listen to what other people say to you about what you do, what does it feel like?
It feels good. It feels authentic. It feels like it's my purpose. It's a transition going from a job as a teacher to transitioning yourself to the role that I'm playing now and the job and the responsibility that I'm working in or working with. It feels heart to heart when dealing with a client. It feels that many people are in need of opening their hearts to receiving and giving.
When you're doing your work, do you feel love for that person?
Yes.
And then when you're completed it, then while you still care, that love isn't quite the same. It's like, I'm asking you that because that's what I do. Well,
I think there's a difference between working with different energies, first of all, and that gives a different feel.
Of course.
And a different response and a different type of a conclusion that you make thereafter. I think for me, there are so many people who need healing, and when they receive it, they're open for the moment, and then they question what they felt or what took place.
Right.
And so if you deal with a man, for example, I have many friends that come over. There's a deep connection for men to open up their hearts. They need to open up their hearts more to receive and not pretend to be a macho character and build up this wall around them in order to to be tough. So my role is softening them up a bit.
Yes.
So that they're able to take in the energy and feel the love that's necessary for them to be whole, masculine and feminine, a balance of both.
Right.
So my feeling is to balance the body when doing the energy of bringing the feminine and the masculine, the earth and the sun, the combination of both. Otherwise, you can't live without either.
Right.
And I think that people will contact me and they'll say, I feel better. I could walk my knee. I can move now. Or the person, I felt the vibration that was going through my body. And I don't remark upon it. I just let them feel it and digest it themselves. I'm not looking for the validation, although I am looking for the validation.
Right, of course.
It's a mixture of both.
Right.
I don't want them to want people to think it's about me by asking how you feeling or what did you feel, but more so to get an idea of what I'm doing is actually being effective.
Yeah, you're learning as you're healing, learning
Yes.
as you're teaching, and what you can't always know what the other person is going through, even though you're working with them. So it's a good idea to be asking, and it's also nice if you get validation.
Yeah.
So just getting the validation is also part of the job, and then getting the validation is part of your job or my job, and that validation makes us better at doing our job as well.
That's right. That I believe. It
Yes.
gives you a not only the purpose but the esteem to continue on. Obviously, to know that it is effective. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
if you didn't get any feedback, you'd say, "Am I actually doing the work I'm saying I'm doing?" Or then the imposter syndrome could take over.
You want to talk about that one? I saw that look in your eye.
Well, I
Tell me about it.
think as we do something new in our lives,
Yes.
we question
Yes.
what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it. And those questions come into the self-confidence we have about doing work. Whether you're a school teacher, a healer, a broadcaster, whatever field we get in, the initial feeling is, am I good enough to do what I say I'm doing?
Oh, I've asked that question a few times in my life.
Well, I think
understand.
I think it's that spiral of self-esteem.
Yeah.
I think the self-sabotage of our parents comes into play.
Yeah.
The image of my father saying, "You're not
Yeah.
good enough for doing that."
Uh,
That self-talk. My mother following along with my father. What are you doing this for? Not the work I'm doing now. But
I
as a
understand.
kid.
Yeah. I
Well,
know.
no matter what it was.
Yeah.
And it was all about fear. Everything was fear-based and control-based. And so it's easy to get caught up in that egocentric feeling of doing the work.
Was your mother born in America or was she born in
Yes.
Europe? Okay.
She was born in America.
We've talked about you doing readings and healing. Do people come to you on a regular basis, like they see you for 5 or 6 sessions, or do they come to you for one session and how do you do that?
They come for one session.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Okay.
If it's not a repetitive type of thing that I'm going to take a client for, it's
Right.
based upon taking on new clients and opening up their energy field and giving them that channel of opening themselves up to it and understanding it. I think for a person who's at a certain age doing this, it takes them a while to assimilate the concept of energy, and telling it to other people and sharing with other people, it could fall on deaf ears. And they wouldn't get the support they needed. So I think a person has to be truly confident in trusting the person doing the work, but also trusting their path. And some people are not still on their own path, even though they're in a certain age. They're still relying upon the system of not only the medical field, which we need, but there's other
Yes.
ways and other channels along with that.
Where do you see or think you're perceiving, where do you think your work or your calling is going to lead you and call you to, or beckon to you? Where do you think the next step is? Or have
Well, I'm
you?
in the process of writing a book.
Oh, hey, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to ask that one. What are you writing about?
Well, I'm actually writing about telling his story.
His?
His story, his story.
Oh, history. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No.
well, telling my
Okay.
story.
Oh,
but
yours.
telling his
Okay.
story.
Sorry, man. All right.
Yeah, I'm bringing together the trauma of childhood and the journey of resurrecting my trauma and understanding the entities, the people in my life, my grandmother's journey, her path here, and how the whole situation came to be, and what I've learned. Finding my father's father in World War II in Europe and creating a documentary film. And I have a lot of photos, and I have a lot of diaries, and I have a lot of stories, ethnic stories, growing up in Brooklyn, playing sports in the street, running to my grandmother's house on the holidays.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's based on that, but then there's probably other components of the work. When we spoke the last time, you told me that I'd be writing a few books, and I just got a confirmation from another person who said something similar on a psychic level. So,
well, you're helping us fulfill one of the predictions that you're writing a book. So
yeah, we'll see what
that's
happens.
great. I'm sure it's going to be a bestseller. We've had this wonderful conversation. We were having this wonderful conversation before we, started recording it. It's been really great. What would you say to people? Like, leave a parting message or wish, or how could somebody identify they're having problems and would need the help of someone that does the spiritual work that you do?
I think
noble. I was going to say noble was the word I was looking for.
Thank you. I think when we wind up in the repetitive cycle of our lives and we continue on a path, and we don't allow ourselves to sit with ourselves to understand that we have also a physical experience, but we also have a soul experience. And there's times where we come into crisis with ourselves. And if we don't take heed to the soul experience, I think we become sick. So I think it's so important for us to notice what our purpose is, not our financial purpose, but the purpose of what brings us satisfaction, and how we're better able to incorporate the child within us that we left behind due to trauma. And I think I think to being complete, we need to do that. We need to reorganize and bring back the part of ourselves that we left behind, thinking that, when we grow up, I'm grown up now, that part of me's gone. That split that we leave behind, that makes us half and a part. So I think it's important for us to know that we're on a soul, the human body is having a soul experience. The soul is using the body as its mechanism, but we need to validate that and pay attention to what we're feeling, how we're feeling, and recognize our emotions and how they interact with the people around us in the universe. So I'd say soul, understanding our soul, self-love, trying to learn to incorporate the child in us, which will bring us to that place of loving ourselves again, doing the things we did as children that we abandoned because other people turned us off to them.
You're a beautiful being, Adam. And
thank you so much.
It's been a lot of fun, really enjoyable, and it's been an honor to connect with you on this high spiritual level that you function on. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, because I view you the same exact way on a human level.
Thank you, Adam. Wow, this brings us to the end of another Rock'em Sock'em, Knock 'em Down, Drag 'em Out shows. Again, I'd like to thank Adam Gell for being on this side, my side of the crystal ball. Looking forward to talking with him again sometime in the future. He just shared so much information. Thanks a lot, Adam, for being on. And before I say goodbye, I've just got a couple of requests. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Incidentally, subscriptions are important because the more subscriptions we have, the more attention, and the more broader the range of the show becomes throughout YouTube's network. The more we are spread out, the more viewers we get, and then the more shows that we can do. So please subscribe to our channel. And incidentally, subscriptions are complimentary. That means they're no charge. You can also find us on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, and pretty much Instagram, and pretty much anywhere else that you get your podcasts. If you want to get in touch with me personally, you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and on my website, www.robertlindsymilne.com. I'm still doing reading, so reach out. Let's see if we can connect. And now, as I'm saying goodbye, these thoughts I'm sharing with you. Do good, stay safe, and above all, just be kind. Good night, everybody.